Hi, third graders. This is your very last reading lesson video. Next week will be your final week of work. We've almost made it. So today for our last lesson, I thought I would share with you my very favorite poem. Now, a lot of people have their ultimate favorite poem, and usually it's because it reminds them of something really special. So my favorite poem is called Casey at the Bat. And this poem is so special to me because my grampy, who is not alive anymore, but when I was a little kid, he would say this poem. He had it memorized, and it's quite long. He would say this poem to us as kids, and he would act it out like he was a baseball player stepping up to the batter's box. And the way he told it is just forever in my mind. So that's why this poem is so special to me. So this poem has been told many times, and it's actually been written into a few different books. So today I'm going to share a picture book reading of it. So originally it was not written as a picture book, it was a poem. But today you're going to listen to the picture book, and at the end they're also going to read to you a little bit about the history of the poem and how it came to be. Okay, I hope you enjoy.
Casey at the Bat by Ernest Lawrence Thayer, narrated by Richard Poe. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first, and Barrows did the same, a sickly silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to that hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought, if only Casey could but get a whack at that, we'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake, and the former was a Lulu, and the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey's getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single, to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted, and the men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a hugging third. Then from 5,000 throats and more there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell. It knocked upon the mountain and recoiled upon the flat, for Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile on Casey's face. And when, responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed in Casey's eye, a sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. From the benches, black with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone on the stand. and it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the spheroid flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two." "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and echo answered, "Fraud!" But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain. And they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go, and now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out. The end.
A note about the poem. Ernest L. Thayer was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts, on August 14, 1863. He grew up in nearby Worcester, attended Harvard College, and worked at the San Francisco Daily Examiner. He wrote news stories, editorials, and ballads, as well as a humorous column that he signed with the nickname Finn. In February 1888, Thayer returned to the East Coast to join the family's wool manufacturing business. 3 months later, he sat down and wrote Casey. He sent it to the Examiner, where on June 3, 1888, it was printed on the editorial page and signed Finn. Readers interpreted Thayer's Mudville Nine as the California League club that had sunk to the bottom of the league standings. 3 of the characters in the poem, Blake, Cooney, and Flynn, were the names of 3 well-known California League players. After the ballad was printed in the Examiner, it was read on the East Coast by Jim Kennedy, editor of the New York Sporting Times. Kennedy substituted Boston star Mike Kelly's last name for Casey, and Boston for Mudville, then cut the first 5 stanzas and published Kelly at the Bat in the July 28, 1888 issue. But the person who really made the poem famous was a comedian named DeWolf Hopper. After receiving a clipping of the original poem from a close friend and author, Archibald Clavering Gunter, he recited the poem during a performance in New York at the Wallach Theater on August 14, 1888. The New York Giants and Chicago White Stockings players attended the show. With such an enthusiastic audience, the poem became an immediate success and afterward was performed by Hopper both on stage and over the radio more than 10,000 times during the next 40 years. As the ballad became immortalized, various people claimed authorship and demanded that Hopper pay them royalties. But Hopper refused, and it was not until Thayer attended one of Hopper's performances in Worcester that the matter of authorship was settled. Thayer sent a note backstage requesting a meeting, and gave Hopper the rights to continue performing the poem without paying any royalties. As Hopper wrote in his memoirs, it is as perfect an epitome of our national game today as it was when every player drank his coffee from a mustache cup. There are 1 or more Caseys in every league, bush or big, and there is no day in the playing season that this same supreme tragedy, as stark as Aristophanes, for the moment, does not befall on some field.
So I hope you liked Casey at the Bat. Another reason I like it is because of the surprise ending. Through the whole poem, you think that Casey's the one that can do it. He can hit the home run. And then at the end, he strikes out. I just love the ending. It's not expected. So today's assignment, after you've done your 30 minutes of reading, I'd like you to share with your teacher your favorite poem. If you can't pick one, then just share one of your favorite poems. You can do this by typing it out if it's short, or you can take a video and send it to your teacher of you saying the poem. You could also show it to us on your screen somehow. Thank you for working so hard over this remote learning time during reading, and I just want to let you know that the most important thing you can do all summer to get ready for next year is to continue reading. Okay? So go off, do your 30 minutes today, and see if you can keep that habit up all summer. 30 minutes a day isn't much, but it will help you so much for next year in 4th grade. Happy reading!